So, Muhamet Malo wrapped up last week and like the Zagreb Open, I'm going to talk about some stuff that happened and some general takeaways with all the wrestlers. Starting with freestyle, Spencer Lee. He looked really good. What else can I say? All tech falls off big laces or guts. Looked like the Spencer Lee of 2024 instead of 2025, but the opposition leaves much to be desired. He looked far better than he did at Zagreb a few weeks ago, but it's always really hard to get a good idea on the competition level of these events, so maybe this means nothing. I will say that he looked a lot more aggressive and far more effective on the ground than he has any time since 2024. Also, I just want to say it's pretty impressive that Spencer Lee can get thrown with a highlight reel 4-point double leg 5 seconds into the match and still get a tech fall within 45 seconds. Up to 86 kilos, Ibrahim Kadiev looked really good. 86 kilos may well have been the more loaded weight class in this tournament, but Kadiev came out on top, showing off some really impressive scrambling in the meantime. In order, he beat an admittedly severely undersized Kyle Dake, Sam Rando, the always candy Arsenij Zoev, then tacked reigning 79-kilo world champion Georgi Komitsitidis. Kadiev I always thought was behind Ramazanov, Valencia, and Gaspar. He didn't beat any of them here, but he looked like a far bigger threat for the top of the podium than he did before. When I saw that Snyder and Sajalive were registered for this event, I and every other wrestling fan really wanted to see the match between them, to see them wrestle for the first time since 2021. Unfortunately, wrestling is not that simple. Snyder bombed out in the quarterfinals to Kaniev, the other Russian in the weight class. Snyder randomly losing in ranking series for no good reason is at this point a borderline yearly tradition, but this match just was not a good look. Snyder initially did well, bullying Kaniev around for push-up points to get to a 4-2 lead, but Snyder just couldn't figure out how to deal with Kaniev grabbing his foot to stop takedowns. Then, when he couldn't defend Kaniev's lightning-fast low single, the match began to spiral for him as he couldn't get the offense not getting countered, and he ended up losing 10-4. Like I said, Snyder has a habit of losing in ranking series between warlords, but I've never seen anybody be that much faster versus Snyder than Kaniev was, so it'll be interesting to see the rematch if that happens. I also find it amusing how quickly people forget he is the reigning world champion, but to be fair, he didn't look it in this match. On the other side of an increasingly doomed rivalry, Sajalive hasn't lost a step, and looked even better than I thought he would. We haven't seen him at 97 kilos since 2023, and not at full strength since 2021, so there was an open question as to how he looked back after so many years. The answer? Really good. 3 techs, including a very impressive one versus Ike Mukin in the final, he smoked Kaniev with a big 4-point and 3 counter takedowns. The only reason he didn't tech him was because he either forgot where the edge of the mat was or didn't circle fast enough for the continuation rule to apply for the counter. Either way, it was supremely dominant. Apparently this meant Sajalive is going to the European Championship for the first time since 2020, since in Albania, which is outside the Schengen zone, which Sajalive was banned from visa for until 2028. So it looks like we're going to see more of him very soon. Up to the big boys, 125 kilos freestyle, Abdul Kurbanov looked like a serious podium threat. He admittedly had an easy road to the finals, but he had a rematch for his 2023 Bronze Medal World Championship match versus Mason Paris. There, Paris had won, but this time Kurbanov dominated and walled the American, who had just teched Hendrickson dominantly. I guess we can add him to the list of quality 125 kilos that could be threat for the top spot with Zaire, Petriashvili, Shripov, and maybe Malsumi. Moving on to the women's freestyle, the first weight class I'd like to talk about is 68 kilos, and Yaneva of Bulgaria winning, including a win against Marim Zumzarova in the finals. I just assumed this weight class was going to be between the multi-time Olympic medalist world champion Zumzarova and the reigning 72 kilo silver medalist Bast, and that Zumzarova would win. That was half right. Zumzarova beat Bast in the semifinal, but Yaneva would then beat her in the finals 2-0 through activity points. I won't say this match was interesting, as it obviously was with neither wrestler scoring offensive points, but it was still impressive for Yelena to shut her down completely, and honestly I should have seen this coming better. She did, after all, win a silver at last year's Worlds at this weight, and wrestled Ishii closer than anyone. While I have no idea how she matches up versus Blades or a rematch versus Ishii, I think that with this result, she is a real contender for the top spot. Up to women's light heavy, Gizi topped off a dominant tournament by beating Riasco in a rematch the World Championships final for 76 kilos. I was impressed with her performance, and the way she tied up powerful Riasco to stop her from scoring was very skillful, as was the domination of the bracket leading to it. Barring the return of Olympic champion Kagami, or something like Igor coming back and moving up to 76 kilos, I think Kesey is still the favorite to win at the weight class, though Riaska has shown that even in defeat, she is still very close to her level. Lastly, Greco. And there isn't a whole lot to talk about, really. It's just that so few top guys were there, and there wasn't much impressive hyperdominance in those thinner weight class to draw any interest, at least for me. Thus, it's somewhat hard to find stuff to be interested about to talk about. The three good weights of 60, 67, and 77 were all barren of the talent that makes them so good, and the rest just wasn't very interesting. Now, that doesn't mean that some interesting things didn't happen, just not much did. I guess the most interesting thing was multi-time world champion Axel Makhmudov and Olympic silver Damir Zadrayev showed up, but strangely moved from 77 kilos to 82. Surprisingly, neither of them even medaled. Zadrayev lost to Kamal Bey, and Makhmudov lost to Vazizadeh. I was wondering why either of these two moved up and thought this might be a stepping stone for an eventual move to 87 kilos for either or both of them. But neither looked good at this weight, especially compared to how they look at 77. For Zadrayev, this is his second bad result at 82 kilos in 2 months, and for Makhmudov, he has legitimately never looked worse. I'm not sure if they just wanted to wrestle without the cut or this is the start of a serious commitment to eventually get up to 87 kilos, but if this tournament isn't any indication, I don't think either of them are going to have a future in any weight class other than 77. Up to 87 kilos, I guess Alan Ostiev looked pretty good. I think he had the most dominant performance of anybody in Greco, with lots of scoring, 2 tech falls, and the near tech to wrap up an admittedly pretty thin division. It's quite rare to see a wrestler get takedowns and even 2-point lifts at this weight, so he's at least pretty good. As for how well he'll do against the very best, I don't know, and I'm not really going to guess. We're going to be seeing more of him in the near future at the European Championships in April, so maybe we'll all just go find out together. Speaking of 87 kilos, reigning world champ Kamarov rolled up at weight and lost round 1. I would be surprised, but when you're as low margin as Kamarov is, you're going to lose matches that you really shouldn't. Besides that, I guess it's mildly impressive that he took Asian score points as opposed to what he did at last year's Worlds. Man, I'm really grasping at straws here. Anything to talk about with Greco? I'll just end the video here. Also, attendance might have been even worse than at Zagreb, which is pretty impressive. Yours were at the same place, so we'll see if they can get more people to bother showing up. My guess is that they probably will, but it's still going to be underwhelming either way.